So what are the two biggest questions we're asked on the regular in real estate? One, how's the market? And two, what are the interest rates doing? Well, if you're wondering what the interest rates are doing, stick around because we're going to give our 12-month prediction on interest rates and whether you should buy, whether you should refi, or heck, just throw in the towel. So stay tuned for more.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show dedicated to exploring hot topics in real estate, local happenings, and industry trends. We're a small team of professionals approaching $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 local transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to The Den. My name is Ben Lyons. I'm your host, and today we're going to be exploring interest rates. What a hot topic. People are always asking about interest rates. Before we get into that, I'm going to introduce my wonderful co-hosts, all part of the Lyons Group. Starting to my left, Paul, give me the rockberry. Melissa, let's go, Glasgow. Aspen, the ninja, Groen. And the boss, Shannon, Martinez. All of us are time-tested brokers, and we are part of the Lyons Group, and we're happy to explore different concepts, real estate, and more. So, but let's just dive right into this. This is always a hot topic. I mean, I can't tell you at every barbecue I'm at, every family function, there's always two questions. What are those two questions, Melissa?
How's the market?
How's the market, right? They're always like, how's the market going? And then you go into the spiel. And then the second question is, what are the interest rates doing, right? So today, let's explore that topic a little bit and talk about historically, let's talk about what's happening today, and then let's give our best predictions on the next 12 months, and we'll go from there. So let's dive right into it. Paul, what are your thoughts on interest rates right now? Give us some idea of where they're sitting and where you think they're going.
Way to start this out with a fun one.
Yeah.
Well, I did some research preparing for this podcast, and it looks like that we're not going to have any relief anytime soon. They're saying right now, as of November 22nd, I saw 30-year fixed rate is at 7.26%.
7.26, and that's conventional notes.
Yep.
Right. Assuming like a decent interest, a decent credit score. Yep. And a decent down payment, like a 5% down, conventional. So we're sitting about 7.25.
Yep. Well, and the thing to think about is the Feds have stopped the rate hikes. The last two meetings that they had, they did not raise rates. So that's why it's kind of leveled off and come back down just a little bit. But we're expecting another hike later this year, so that could bump us a little bit back up. But the forecast for the next year is about staying in the mid to low sevens. I found a couple of good numbers. They say that 40% of residential mortgages right now are at the 3% or below.
Oh wow!
So
that's like, so what you're saying is half of the current mortgages in the market right now.
Yeah. So that means most people are going to sit instead of selling.
Yeah.
Because why go to 7.5% if you have under 3?
Yeah.
Unless you know the reasons that we always say we have to move for work, death in the family, divorce, addition to the family.
Yep. Addition. Yep.
Yep. Then the other one was the last couple of years, lending has been relying a lot on refinancing.
Yeah.
They say the number I saw was 90% of refinances right now are cash out refinances to get out of credit card debt and to pay down other debt.
Yeah, it almost seems like there's kind of a looming, like America's been in this, like just we're spending and we're growing and we're doing all these things, and then interest rates go up and people were on that same trajectory. And so then they're using their credit cards and, going into debt. So I feel like we kind of have a wave of, some instability in that regard coming up. I mean, what are your thoughts, Melissa?
I think we really got very spoiled with our threes and unders over the last couple of years. So it really feels like, rates are so high right now, and they're really not. Historically, they're not high. We've had much higher interest rates within our lifetimes. So I think that we all just need to remember that, hey, now it's time to get on track with what we're doing financially and make those smart decisions, because 7% is not a historic high interest rate. Yes, it hurts coming from a 3, but we're okay. Everything's going to be fine. New homeowners are going to be able to do it. I think that we got spoiled, and now we need to settle down and be happy with what we have.
Yep. It's funny because I feel like we kind of we're addicted to low interest rates. Yes. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a healthy thing.
Right.
Because when you're always running pedal to the metal, America as a whole, we're addicted to that. And so when there's any type of swing on the interest rates, we're all shook up.
Yep.
Right. And then the feds really don't have a lever to pull because they can't go any. I mean, I guess you could go lower, but you don't really have a lever to pull if you're always floating that low. So I think we looked up earlier the last 50 years. What's the average? Do you remember what the average interest rate was?
7.6.
7.6.
Yeah.
So historically, Aspen, like the interest rates, if we went back 50 years, I think they started at in 1971 or so, recording what interest rates were. Historically speaking, we're at, the average is 7.5. So we're right in there. So what are your thoughts in that regard?
My thoughts are a little bit, I guess, I'm always going to be pro individual person consumer. So yes, interest rates are average, not exceptionally high as a national average, but we're also looking at the median income is, yes, higher, but not triple what it was before. So even if we were looking at interest rates before that were, 17, 18%, buying a house for $40,000, and maybe your minimum wage was $3, $2.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that it is hard for the average everyday working person to be able to afford an average price house, which is over $400,000 nationally.
Yeah.
I think it's a struggle for a lot of people. So yes, I do think, am I going to buy at 7% all day? I'm gonna, if it's a good deal, it's a good deal. If I have to move, I'm going to move. But I think it would be a disservice to say it's not hard for people right now to afford these interest rates, because house prices have almost doubled in the last 4 years. And then not only with that, so you have house prices doubling, income's not doubling, and there was a little bit of relief with COVID, and I think people got used to the extra money that they were getting, and now realizing, oh crap, it's pretty hard to make that payment.
Kind of going on that too is, okay, you've got your house payment, but also what else has gone up drastically is our utilities here locally.
Yeah.
And that's also nationally as well. So not only is our house payment going up, but our utility payment just to live in the house is also, in some instances, more than doubled.
Yeah. I think all of us can look and say, I'm still going to be purchasing investment properties. I'm sure you guys are as well. We can still help our clients find their first time home, but I do think our kids coming up to buy houses without some sort of help from us, hopefully, I could see it being very difficult for people who don't have.
Well, and what you allude
not impossible.
Not impossible, but I think that people, there's a lag, right? And that's kind of what you were alluding to, is there's a lag between the appreciation that we've seen in the market and the wages actually catching up. I mean, you talked about, 17, 18%, and that was back in the 80s, but the homes then were, $40,000, $50,000 in a lot of instances. And back then you could literally have a normal 9-to-5 job, support your family, buy a home,
One income. Yes.
Single income.
Yes.
The wages have to catch up to really make the difference. But at the same time, you shouldn't stop buying at these interest rates. There's no reason to stop doing that because, there's a variety of reasons you should. But what are your thoughts on that, Shannon? I mean, should people wait around, or should they start pulling the trigger? Or, I mean,
Well, I think it depends. I think it depends on your individual situation. I think there's going to always be the people that have to buy. That's not going to change. They're going to have to buy no matter what happens. But also, there are deals to be had right now. I mean, we may have some limited inventory, but we still have people that need to sell. And with higher interest rates, you may have fewer buyers. So those buyers may be able to be a little bit more negotiable if they're the only one looking at your house.
Yeah.
So there's always an advantage. There's always an advantage whether the inventory is high or the inventory is low, whether the interest rates are high or the interest rates are low. There's always going to be advantage. But the truth is that overall, historically, our price of real estate is always going to be higher. It's always going to go up. So it's always going to be, if you buy right now and you think, I really overpaid for this house. But if you're buying it for a long-term investment and in 20 years from now, that's not going to matter.
Yeah.
That's not going to matter.
Hold it.
Yeah.
So buy it now where you
Yeah.
may have a little less competition because of interest rates. Buy it now where maybe you can get the deal that you want, and you can always refinance. I mean, it might cost you a little bit of money, but in the long term, overall, if you're just looking to flip a house or something, maybe it's right, maybe it's not. The deal might have to be a little bit better.
Sure.
But overall, I still think it's good. I remember buying my first house, and I want to say it was in the 90s, and I had a 7.75% interest rate, and it was a great deal. Like, I was so excited
Yeah.
to have that.
I
So
remember
excited to
that
have
little house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a great investment. I wish I still had it. Again,
Yeah.
at the time, it seemed like a lot of money, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I wish I had it today.
Yep.
And I don't care what the interest rate would have been. So if you look historically, if you're looking for just, I need a house for 2 years, maybe it's not the best option for you.
Yeah.
But I think it's always subjective to what your individual situation
Well,
is.
there's an old saying, right? When's the best time to buy a house?
Yesterday.
20 years ago, right?
Exactly.
When's the second best
Yeah.
time to buy your house? Today or yesterday?
Yep.
So it really does make sense. 'Cause, I mean, you look back historically and you start thinking about the values back in the 60s and then the 80s and even in the early 2000s. And we were like, oh my gosh, that house is selling for that. And right now I'm experiencing, I can't speak for you all, but I'm looking at homes right now going, oh, is that really selling for that? And because I'm so used to prices just a couple years ago, that's hard for me to get my mind around it. And I'm in the business. I can imagine, people that aren't in the vein like we are experiencing that feeling, especially when it went up so fast, the appreciation went through the roof.
You've probably all seen the posts on Facebook and social media that have been going around, and it's local ads from Farmington from maybe the 60s, and it's the Mossman homes.
Yep.
And they're putting them out there at 15,000, things like that, and we just think you go over there now and they're 250.
Yeah, I just sold a Mossman for
Yeah.
$230.
There you
Yeah.
go.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It
Can you
is.
imagine?
Hey, to the Mossman credit, those things are I
love
if it goes
Mossman.
down, a Mossman house will still be standing.
I've lived half
Absolutely.
my life in a moss.
Yeah.
They're good houses.
They're great
Yeah,
houses.
I love 'em.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, so then that begs the question. I mean, interest rates, we talked a little bit about where they're at right now. You've got, the Fed has to look at all this stuff. They got to look at unemployment.
Yeah.
They've got to look at inflation. They've got to get the reins on some things. So, what's our 12-month, lookout ahead? What are we looking at in the next 12 months? Obviously, we have an election cycle coming up. That always throws a wrench in things. But, let's talk a little bit about what you see the interest rates doing based on that.
So my opinion on that is I don't think they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. I don't think we're going to see much of a change. I think we will see a bit of a change next year. I'm going to predict they're going to go down a little bit. Maybe not a ton, but they're going to go down a little bit for just what you said. We have an election year that always you want a favorable outlook of where the economy's at. So that will probably bring them down. I think inflation's getting a little bit in check. I know it doesn't feel like that when you go to the grocery store, you pay your utility bill, things like that. But overall, inflation is getting in check right now. I think that when you look at some of those and you look at the fact that we had a rise and a rise and a rise, and then we leveled off and we leveled off, at some point, that's just the natural flow of it. I believe we're going to see some drops, and then maybe later on we'll start coming down a little bit more. But I definitely think next year they'll do a reduction next year.
Okay, so your prediction,
Even if it's not huge, I do think we'll start seeing that trend.
So you're predicting we've leveled off, and we're starting maybe a slight decline in interest
I think they're
rates.
talking about one more rise before the end of the year, but
Okay.
if I'm talking about next year, I'm thinking that's where we're going to see us level off and start heading the other direction.
Okay.
That would be my best guess.
Fair enough. Aspen, what are your thoughts?
I think I think like Shannon, I think we're going to be in the sixes all of next year because I'm kind of following the unemployment rate. They wanted it at, I believe, 4.1% by the end of the year. We're at 3.8. It wasn't as high. as they were anticipating. And I think it needs to be around 5% before we start to see the 5%, the pre-COVID interest
Sure.
rates.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'll be in the 6s all next year. I think possibly lower 6s by the end of the year, but definitely not in the first 2 quarters.
Yeah.
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 I
I mean,
don't
it's
think-
conceivable with how fast the interest rates went up
Mhm.
that it's conceivable they go down that fast.
Yeah.
But I don't see any real advantage.
No, I
right
think
now.
if they drop them too quickly, it's just going to happen all over again.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree.
it's going to be just like, 2022.
Yep.
2021 where everyone was buying everything.
Melissa, what are your thoughts?
So I did some research on it, and my research said I got my magic 8 ball, and I said, "Are rates going to change?" And I flipped it over and it said, "Check again later."
Check again.
But I think same with the ladies. It's going to kind of stay the same. It might go down a little bit. I don't foresee us having a major change again. So I just think it's going to kind of hold steady, go down a little bit, like tenths of a point,
Yeah.
type of stuff. But
Yeah, I mean, because you really could. You start thinking about the perfect storm, right?
Mm-hmm.
These things can really start coming to play. Your unemployment goes up 5%, right? And all of a sudden, you've got a really big problem in the country with unemployment, and then inflation has gone up so much, and now the interest rates are stacked up so high that businesses aren't spending money,
Right.
and then you have this kind of hidden wave of what we talked about before with consumer debt. Right, and that all plays in. Next thing you know, you got a storm brewing there. So I know that's on their radar. But yeah, you wouldn't want to. I mean, interest rates could be the linchpin that pushes you over. Now we've all talked about, and this will be a different episode. Is there a crash coming up? Right? Is there a market crash that's going to happen similar to 2006, 7, 8? And that's a whole nother subject. But boy, you start looking at some of these key indicators, and there's some makings of at least a strong correction in the market. So, Paul, what are your thoughts for the interest rates in the next 12 months?
I think since it's an election year, I think they're going to try to work on the inflation rate quite a bit as they try to push that number down. That has an effect on unemployment and also effect on interest rates. So I think if they put their effort towards getting inflation under control, getting down to an acceptable number for them, I think that should bring interest rates down a little bit. I don't think it'll be the first half of the year, but maybe by the end of the year, we might be in the high 6s.
Yeah.
That's my crystal ball prediction
Okay.
based on nothing.
Okay. So where are we sitting right now again, Paul, today's interest rate?
7.26.
7 points. Let's just round to 7.25. Okay. So we're going to jump into a speed round real quick just to kind of finish this part of the conversation. I'm going to ask each of you best guess thoughts, high end interest rate, and what it may dip to low end. So be specific, because I'm going to record you, and we're going to come back and talk about this in about a year and see
You
where we
promised
land.
cutting room floor earlier.
Yeah. Okay, so speed round. Shannon, let's start with you. What's your low end prediction and high end prediction for interest rates in 2024?
I would say 6.5 to 7.5. I don't see him going over 7.5, and I don't see him going below 6.5.
So 6.5 floor, 7.5 top, and you're thinking that the peak's going to happen sooner and then it'll level out
I believe.
and go down toward the end of the year, if I understood you correctly. Okay,
I believe so, yeah.
awesome. Aspen?
I'm going to say 7, 4, 5, and 6, 3.
Ooh, she's getting real
Getting
granular.
specific because
Yeah.
who
Was
I
this
say-
the Price is Right? Like I
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
and then you bid like right?
1%.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so I think 7, 4, 5 high,
Yeah.
6, 3 low.
Yep.
I think winner has to buy lunch at the end of next year.
I think that's
Whoever
a
gets
great,
the closest.
That's
great
appropriate.
plan. Yeah.
Right.
Deal.
Let's go, Glasgow. What's your thoughts?
Well, let's see here. I agree with the 7.5 is the highest, and I'll go down to 6.25.
6
So
points.
low.
Whoa, you're
Yes.
feeling optimistic there.
Yes.
A little bit bigger of a swing.
Yeah, a little bit bigger.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right, I like it.
I'm thinking right in that 7.4 range for the high and about a 6.85 for a low.
6, 8, 5.
6.85. Yeah.
I don't think there's a huge swing going to happen, but
Yeah.
I would love to see 6.3s.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
What did I say?
I don't know.
2.5.
I don't remember.
Roll
I was
the tape.
just-
Roll it back.
I was thinking of the Price is Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
We all get to eat lunch anyways.
1%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1%. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. My personal thought on this is, I think we're going to see a little bit of an increase from where we're at. I think we're going to pop up to the 7.5. I think we're all kind of on the same page there. And I tend to agree with Paul in the sense that I don't see a major swing next year just because it's an election year. And sometimes they just like to keep things even keel.
Yeah.
Status quo.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yep. And so I would say 7.5 on the high end. Let's go 7.55. 7.55 high end. And then on the low end, we'll go 6.75. So there you have it, folks. It's on the books. We're going to revisit this in a year from now and see who's on point and who's buying lunch. So let's jump into probably my favorite part of our podcast episode, and this is called The Lyons Pride. So if you get to know us, you'll know that we like to spin off of words, and obviously we are the Lyons Group, so we want to parlay some thoughts off of the Lyons Pride. And we are all very prideful of what we do in the community. We're very proud of how we serve in our real estate capacity, in our personal lives, and how we dedicate time to the community. So this section's really about highlighting someone in the community that we think has done an exceptional job. And you have to keep in mind that the Lyons, when the Lyons were named as a pride, they were associated with the nobility. And that's why I hate to use the word monarch, but they were the king. They're the kings of the jungle, right? They're the top. They're the best of the best. They're strong, majestic, and powerful. And now lionesses and lions actually have two different roles, and that's okay. That's what makes them awesome. But they all work together for the higher and greater good of each other. So as we do in our community today, we all have different passions, different roles, different commitments, but it's the impact that we have that truly matters. So in an effort to showcase and expand the Lyons Pride, we'd like to take a minute and spotlight someone that is near and dear to my heart. I'm going to go first, and each episode we're going to rotate through, but I do want to highlight a lady who has been instrumental in our youth's lives. And the other day we went to a veterans program at the Country Club Elementary. My daughter is in 4th grade, my youngest I should say, and my oldest is in 7th grade. And I love going there every year because they put on an awesome Veterans Day program. And the teacher who does that, and I shouldn't say she's a teacher anymore. She used to be a teacher. She's a music teacher. Now I guess she's a teacher. It's in the same vein, is Miss Peterson. And Miss P is who we call one of our favorites there at the Country Club. She loves those children. She puts together an awesome program every year for the Veterans Day. She also puts on other programs, but I got to tell you, just watching year after year after year, her dedication and service to those children is just absolutely fantastic. So, Miss Peterson, if you're listening to this, just know that the Lyons Group, we see you. We want to thank you. We want to tell you how much we appreciate you rolling your sleeves up and being a great influence to our children. And welcome to the Lyons Pride. So thank you for that. Now, let's wrap up this thought on the interest rates. I think we've had a great discussion today. I think there's some good advice that's been floated around. Do not wait to buy. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Would you all agree?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, do not let interest rates stop you from moving forward with exploring your real estate strategy. Hopefully you have real estate in your portfolio, and if not, get with one of us because we got to get you in the game here. There are so many. I think Warren Buffett is the one that said, you want to be bullish when other people are bearish. You know, in other words, you want to go out and purchase and make moves when other people are afraid to do that. And when everybody's bold is when you kind of want to take a step back. So now's that time. And I know that there's a lot of investors that are getting in the game right now. So if you're one of them, or if you're just looking to buy or sell in general, obviously get with one of us here at the Lyons Group. We would love to hear from you. We would love to get some comments from you, also some thoughts on other topics coming up. And so feel free to email team@sjcbroker.com, comment on this video, a topic that you'd like to see, or reach out to us individually. If you go to sjcbroker.com, you can reach any of us, have a conversation about what the Lyons Group can do for you and the advantage that we can give you in today's market. Any new happenings coming up that anyone wants to discuss? I know we've got the luminarias, we've got some other things. Melissa,
Yeah.
You're big on community events, and
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the San Juan College Luminaria Tour. It's beautiful. It's been happening for decades. Also out at the Aztec ruins, they do a luminaria presentation out there as well. You get to walk out there underneath the moonlight, and I believe that happens on the solstice. So December 21st,
very cool. Yep.
I think is the solstice. So yeah,
shortest day of the year, right?
Shortest day of the
Yep.
year, yes. So there's a lot happening in our community for the holidays. Get out there and experience some of it yourself.
Okay, very cool. Well, next episode we'll be discussing whether to sell your home in the winter months makes sense or not. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be an interesting conversation. But we appreciate you joining the Lyons Group and the Den on today's podcast. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed on real estate happenings. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group, visit sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in the Den.